Hey guys, it's Michaela here. So today I'm going to be doing a part 2 to my things you need to watch during quarantine series. In part 1, I talked about my all-time favorite TV shows, and that video has so many great recommendations, so if you are in need of those, I'll definitely link that video down below. But today we're talking about movies, and honestly, I'm actually not that much of a movie person. I definitely prefer TV shows over movies, but after some careful consideration and thought, I gathered up a list of movies that I really like and that I definitely think are worth a watch. Okay, so the first category is Netflix, and I only have 2 movies in here because I definitely don't know that many Netflix movies that I'm super crazy about, but if you guys have any recommendations for me, totally leave those in the comments. But the first one that I wanted to recommend is To All the Boys I Loved Before, the first one, not the second one. I don't even, let's talk about the first one. The first movie is so amazing. It's one of my favorite rom-com, right? Yeah. I just love the concept and story of it. It's so funny and so great. If you haven't seen this movie, basically this girl, Lara Jean, she has written 5 love letters to her crushes in the past, but she hasn't sent them until her sister Kitty sends them to all the boys that she's loved before, hence the title. It's pretty much just kind of an exploration of that. So the next movie is actually an animated movie, and it's Into the Spider-Verse. I love this movie so much, like so much, and I'm not really that much of a cartoon animated movie kind of person, so that's saying a lot. But this movie is just, there's so much action, there's so much adventure, the graphics and the visual effects. I love that movie so much. It's so like aesthetically pleasing. Basically, it's this kid named Miles Morales, and he discovers that he's the next Spider-Man, and it's so cool. Keeps you on the edge of your toes.
I think I meant keeps you on the edge of your seat. I don't even know if keeps you on the edge of your toes is a saying or if that even makes sense.
Also, the soundtrack is so good. Watch the movie just because of the soundtrack. It's so good. So the next category is an I don't know category, because I don't really know a streaming service that you can watch them on, but I know that you can rent them on like YouTube or Amazon. Honestly, it's so worth it to pay the price to watch them because they're so good. So the first movie is this movie that I saw a while ago with my friend, and it's called Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. So these kids kind of live in this like alternate world kind of place, and they all have these different kind of powers. What's cool is that, so in like the real world, there's this boy who eventually kind of goes into that other world. Oh my gosh, this is such a hard movie to explain. Then he kind of meets these kids and their situation and stuff, and basically like the house that they live in, they always have to reset this time machine so that it's the same day, because if they let it go past the day, the house will get destroyed because of a rocket or something. It's really good. The special effects are awesome. The music is awesome. Really love that movie. Next movie is The Giver, and oh my gosh, I remember when I saw the trailer for this movie with the One Republic song. I think it was like Ordinary Human. Oh my gosh. First of all, I love that song, but the trailer of this movie was just so good. It's so good. Basically, this is based on a book. It's kind of like a sci-fi kind of thing. If you watch my part 1 video, this movie is very similar to Utopia Falls, where it's kind of like this utopian society. They have certain rules, and then the main character, Jonas, he gets this assignment that's really important, and he kind of learns some secrets of the authoritative people in the society, and it's such a good movie. Kind of like adventure, coming of age. It's so good. I love that movie so much. The next movie is actually one of the most recent movies that I've seen, and it is Little Woman. This movie is so good, and I actually have a little tiny personal connection to it, which is kind of cool. Yeah, it's like just so cool. But yes, this is also based off a book. A lot of these movies are based off books. It's these 4 sisters that just kind of live in their lives in the 1800s, and one of the sisters, Jo March, she really wants to become a writer, and she's very unconventional for the time. She doesn't really want to get married or anything like that. Her main goal is like to become a writer, and it's so interesting to see her journey and how she interacted with people during that time and stuck by her belief when everyone else didn't really share the same beliefs as her. It's such a great movie, coming of age, and visually too, it's so beautiful. I love that movie. And also, if you like Anne with an E, you'll definitely like this movie because it's kind of like that same like 1800s kind of style. I don't know, it's so weird because you know it's not in modern times, but it feels so modern. You know, it doesn't feel like you're watching a history movie. It really is so realistic and still relatable, although so many things of it are not relatable. It's such a great movie, coming of age. I love it. And there's Saoirse Ronan and Timothée Chalamet, and I mean, if that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. Okay, the next movie is actually like very weird for me because I don't usually like horror movies or anything, and I think this is actually the only horror movie that I've watched, but it really wasn't like that much of a horror movie, kind of more like a thriller. But besides that, getting to the point, the movie is Us, and this is by Jordan Peele, and I really liked this movie, even though it still gives me the heebie-jeebies to this day. It's really interesting. One of the main things that I really loved about this movie was that it had a female black lead and a black cast, and I mean, you don't see that in movies these days. A lot of movies, it's very whitewashed, only white characters, and seeing that was so refreshing. And even besides that, like, the movie was so good, and man, the plot twists still get me to this day, and I'm like, what? Like, what's going on? I am not gonna explain that movie because I don't want to spoil anything, but search it up if you're interested. Really great. So the next category is Disney/Disney Plus, and this is by far the biggest category. I have so many movies. So the first one is the most recent one that I've seen, and it's Stargirl. I don't know what it is about this movie, and some people might not like it, but there's something so peaceful about it, and like serene and quiet, and it's like when you're watching it, you feel like you just were in like a meditation or something like that. Like something so peaceful, and also just like the quality of it is so like high definition. Like, I don't know, it's so like crisp and clear and like really aesthetically pleasing to watch, and I loved that movie so much. But this is also based off a book. Literally every single one is based off a book. This one's also based off a book, and I remember reading this book in 6th grade and loving it. It's kind of interesting. I feel like some people will either hate or love this movie, but basically there's this guy Leo. He's a high schooler, and he, you know, kind of goes to this high school where everyone's kind of the same and it's kind of boring. But then Stargirl, she's lived in the town for a while, but she's been homeschooled and she has some spunk to her, you know. So then she comes to the school and kind of changes everything up, and she's, you know, she wears very bright clothing, and she's 100% unapologetically herself and confident, and she changes the dynamic of the school, and it's so interesting. But yeah, that's one of my favorite movies. It's so like, it's so great, and just coming of age, it's one of my favorite movies ever. Okay, so the next movie is Tron, and I love this movie so much, and honestly, I probably love it more visually than like actually the movie itself, but I would totally watch it just like because it's so beautiful. But yeah, basically it's kind of like this video game world, and there's lights and motorbikes, and it's so like cool. And also the soundtrack by Daft Punk, oh my gosh, like I love that soundtrack so much. But it's so cool, and definitely unlike any other movie I've ever watched. But yeah, it's kind of like this video game world, and this guy is in there. There's some enemies and challenges, and he might get stuck. I mean, we don't really know. And yeah, it's a really good movie, definitely recommend it. So the next movies is Zombies and Zombies 2. I remember when I first watched the first movie, I kind of thought it was gonna be bad, but I really enjoyed it, and the music was really great, and I loved the story, and honestly I feel like it's very comparable to High School Musical. I mean, at the same time, nothing can compare to High School Musical, but I feel like it really is a successful movie in that realm, and I really enjoyed it, and I love the story and the concept. And then Zombies 2 was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because I knew the first movie was so great. Yeah, the music's amazing, and it's just such a cool, fresh story. There's actually a lot of great themes in that movie that do relate to social justice issues, and I've never actually heard anyone talk about that. There's a lot of great messages in that movie, and I really love it. The next recommendation is just the High School Musical movies. I feel like I don't even have to say anything about that. It's just, you know. My favorite one though, comment down below your favorite High School Musical movie. I feel like the first one, it's so iconic. The next movie is Descendants, Descendants 2 and Descendants 3. My favorite of those movies is definitely Descendants 2. Oh my gosh, with Uma and the soundtrack of that movie. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Basically, this movie kind of centers around 4 classic Disney character villains, children, right? So it's their children, and they are getting a chance to go to Oregon where all the like princesses and princes live, and so it's kind of following like them going there and seeing if the Oregon people trust them and stuff like that. Those are such great movies, very comparable to High School Musical in a very more, you know, unrealistic sense. That is such a great movie. The choreography is so good, the soundtrack is so good, and it's very entertaining to watch. The next movie, oh my gosh, I remember when this came out, like this was such a good movie, and it still is, but I just remember like that hype around it, and it's Let It Shine. This movie is like, oh, it's so underrated. One of my favorite things also about it is the diversity in the cast. I mean, I really have to point that out because a lot of movies just do not have that, and whenever they do, I really do appreciate that. But it's really cool because I love how it focuses on rap. It focuses on it in a positive way because there are definitely positive rappers, you know, for sure, and I think that is something that is definitely only seen from a negative light, and I really like that they didn't do that with this movie. The soundtrack is amazing of this movie. You have Coco Jones, you have Trevor Jackson, Tyler James Williams. The story story of it is kind of like a Cyrano de Bergerac kind of thing. So you have one kid who is an amazing songwriter and can write really great lyrics, but he's a little bit shy. And then you have his friend who is definitely a lot more outgoing, but he can't write the lyrics. He's not that great. He's just very good at performing and being extroverted pretty much. And then you have Roxy, who she's kind of like this up and coming singer. So she hears Chris's rap, but she thinks the other guy wrote it because he performed it. And it's kind of just like this whole confusion. But it's such a great movie. I really like it. And that movie is so underrated. So great. You should definitely watch it. So the next movie is The Swap. And this is such an underrated movie. I loved this movie so much. The messages in the movie were amazing. And I thought it was so heartfelt and really, really interesting. There are so many movies like this and they're kind of all the same, but this one really stuck out to me. I really loved it. Man, this was such an underrated movie and nobody ever talks about it. Like literally no one talks about it. Basically, there's these two teenagers and I think they both get in trouble and their phones are together and you know, they switch bodies and it's so funny at times, but then it's so like serious and heartwarming, and yeah, it's just such a great coming of age movie and I love it so much. So the next movie, I remember watching this as a kid for the first time and I loved the way that it was structured because it was kind of, oh wait, I haven't told you the movie yet. It's Frenemies. So if you guys don't remember, the way that this movie is structured is that it follows the story of 3 different sets of friends. So you have, I think, twins, you have a boy and his dog, and you have 2 girls that are best friends. And I just loved the whole 3 storyline thing and how it flips back and forth. I thought that was really like entertaining and cool to see like how all these different lives turned up and they kind of like interweave in each other's storylines, which is super cool. And this has Zendaya and Bella Thorne, and basically each pair of friends, they start as really good friends, but then there's a conflict, you know, and then they become really, really upset with each other and they basically become enemies, hence the title Frenemies. And it's just really interesting because it explores kind of friendships and how they can kind of get really strained and ruined and how they can get fixed maybe. The next movie I thought I should give a little mention is the Wizards of Waverly Place movie. I remember watching this and I remember I was genuinely so like scared almost because there was just like all these plot twists and turns and you were like, oh, you know, what if this happens? And I don't know, I just feel like it made me feel really sympathetic for the characters, and I feel like if a movie makes you feel like that, at least in my opinion, I feel like that's like a really good movie because it made me care about them and, you know, want the best for them. But I just remember watching that and it was really intense. There was a lot of action and drama and I love drama, so that's such a great movie. Definitely recommend that. And the last Disney movie I watched a couple months ago and I never heard about it before. It's kind of interesting because I feel like if they made it in 2020, I don't know how that would have been received. It's called The Color of Friendship and this explores stereotypes, and basically this girl, she lives in Washington, D.C. She's from a Black family. So her dad is a congressman, I think. And she wants to do this cultural exchange program with this girl from Africa. And it's interesting because she's expecting, you know, like this stereotype African girl, dark skin, from a tribe, like all these stereotypes. And the girl is white. And the girl, she's expecting that the family is a white family. She's thinking congressman, you know. And yeah, so it's interesting. I forget what time period that the movie is set in. Is it 70s? I just know that it's when South Africa had apartheid, and definitely has like this historical context in it that I had no idea about, and just kind of the racism that was in there. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because this girl, she comes to the girl's house and she doesn't really know how to treat them. Well, she treats them badly because in South Africa where she lived, they didn't treat Black people great. You know, they really didn't see them as equals there at the time. It's a really good movie. I definitely think people should watch it. There's a lot to learn from it. The last category is Nickelodeon, and honestly, Disney compared to Nick movies, I mean, you can't even compare that, but Nick did have a couple of movies that I really, really did enjoy and remember to this day. Like, I think about these movies and I'm like, oh, I need to watch that right now. But the first movie is Rags. This has Max Schneider. This has Max. It has Keke Palmer. It's just so great. It's kind of like a Cinderella story. Oh, that's another movie you guys should watch. I didn't even think about that. The Cinderella story with Selena Gomez. Watch that, that's so good. It's kind of like that vibe a little bit. So basically, this movie has one character who he's this singer and he doesn't really have the best family background, and I think he's poor a little bit. And then you have Keke Palmer's character who is a pop star and she has all this fame, but she kind of wants to keep under the limelight, and and she doesn't really like how people are trying to control her and stuff. She just kind of wants to be herself. And so they meet, and that's all I'll tell you. You guys have to watch the movie to find out. So the last movie is called Swindle, and I remember watching this movie and loving it. It was comedic and like really interesting to watch, and it had a ton of my favorite Nick stars. It had Ariana Grande, Noah Crawford, I think, Sierra Bravo. Oh my gosh, I loved her because I loved her as Katie in Big Time Rush. Oh, that was such a good show. Chris O'Neill, Jeanette McCurdy, who played Sam, and Noah Monk, who played Gibby. So many classic Nick stars. It was so cool to see them all be in the same movie but playing completely different characters than their shows. But this was just such a like funny, entertaining movie, and I remember like there were so many plot twists that you didn't see coming and you're like, oh, how are they gonna do this? But that is such a great movie. Definitely one of my favorites. So that's pretty much the end of this video. I hope that some of the movies that I mentioned really caught your interest and you're like, man, I want to watch that. That sounds so good. And also comment down below any of your movie recommendations for me, because I totally would love to watch them, and I definitely need to watch more movies. There's so many great ones that I just don't know about. And also let me know if you guys want a part 3 to this video. I could do like nostalgic Disney Channel shows and Nick shows or something else like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it, and I'll see you guys in my next video.